Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for tuning in. It's your girl Beloved and I'm back with a new recipe for the channel. Guys, your girl hasn't been feeling well for some time now, so please bear with me on the voice I'm using today. Beloved Catering Service is a business where we make cakes, meat pies, ring donuts, samosa, spring rolls, and all kinds of fruit drinks and fruit juices, especially sobolo. We also make jollof rice and fried rice for all events and occasions. You can contact us with the information provided on the screen. In today's video, we will be making a classic chocolate cake with chocolate whipped cream frosting and chocolate twist topping. The ingredients for today's recipe include 240 grams of all-purpose flour, 400 grams of white sugar, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, half tablespoon of baking soda, which is bicarbonate of soda, half tablespoon of salt, half cup of vegetable oil, 2 room temperature eggs, 2.5 cups of milk, 1 tablespoon of vanilla essence, 100 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder, 1 cup of hot boiling water, 620 grams of homemade icing sugar, and 1 sachet of instant whipped cream, and our luster gold dust. The tools and equipment I used today include a disposable piping bag, an ice cream scooper, an 8-inch love-shaped baking tin, a cooling rack, a turntable, a measuring cup, which is the medium size, 3 mixing bowls, a milk jug, a rubber spatula, a cake server or a cake shovel, an offset spatula, a palette knife, a cake board, a cake leveler, a serrated knife, a whisk, measuring spoons, and a weighing scale with its attached weighing bowl. We will also be using a pastry brush, a cake scraper, and an unused painting brush. Let's get started. Pick up the baking tin, pour 2 tablespoons of oil into it and use a pastry brush to spread the oil on the bottom and sides of the baking tin evenly. Now sprinkle 1 tablespoon of flour into the baking tin and shake the baking tin so that the flour coats the bottom and sides of the baking tin. And this is our oil flour coated baking tin ready for baking our cake. It's time to prep our dry ingredients. Pour and measure 240 grams of all-purpose flour with the weighing scale and then pour it into the mixing bowl. With the same weighing scale, pour and measure 400 grams of white sugar and add it to the flour in the mixing bowl. Add the baking powder and the baking soda. Then pour and measure 50 grams of cocoa powder and add it to the ingredients in the mixing bowl. Then mix it with the flour, sugar, baking powder, and baking soda with the aid of the whisk. Now add in the salt to strike a balance with the sugar in the recipe. And mix the dry ingredients together once again, then set it aside. Let's prep the wet ingredients. In another mixing bowl, add the oil and crack 2 eggs into it. Ensure there are no shells in it. Now add in the milk and 1 tablespoon of vanilla essence. Gently whisk everything together until it's all well incorporated, then set it aside. Let's combine the wet and dry ingredients together. Pour 2 cups of water into a kettle and set it to a boil for a few minutes. In another mixing bowl, pour half of the wet ingredients and half of the dry ingredients. Now whisk everything together until almost combined. Now add half cup of boiling water to the mixture. This is done to add moisture to the cake and also to activate the cocoa powder for a more chocolatey taste and flavor. After the cake batter is well mixed, pour the cake batter into the baking tin. Then pat it on the floor or a flat surface to burst all the tiny air bubbles on the surface that may hinder the baking process of the cake. Place it in the cold-pot oven for 40 minutes on medium-low heat. The first cake is almost ready. It's time to mix the second batch of the cake. In the same mixing bowl, add the rest of the wet ingredients and the rest of the dry ingredients, then stir them together. Then add in another half cup of boiling water and mix thoroughly. Use the previous method I used to coat the baking tin with oil and flour for the second time. Now pour the cake batter into the baking tin, pat it to burst all the tiny air bubbles and put it in the oven for 40 minutes on medium-low heat. After 25 minutes, check on the cake and use a toothpick to check if the cake is well baked or if it needs more time to bake properly. Note that if the cake is baked properly, the toothpick will not have unbaked cake particles stuck to it, but if it is not well baked, it will have unbaked cake particles stuck to it, which means it needs more time to bake. Let's make the chocolate whipped cream frosting. Sift the homemade icing sugar with a sieve. Here I used my hands to break the tiny lumps in the sieve to speed up the sifting of the icing sugar. Tear and pour the instant whipped cream into a bowl. Then add half cup of milk to it as you whisk it on high speed for 3 minutes to form the cream beautifully. With the help of the measuring spoons, fetch 1 cup of icing sugar into the cream mixture. Whisk the icing sugar and the cream together. I switched to the wooden ladle because the whisk got stiff and couldn't do the mixing like I wanted it. Continue adding in the icing sugar and mix it nicely with the cream. Adjust the stiffness of the mixture with 1 tablespoon of milk at a time till all the sugar is well incorporated into the whipped cream. Sift the rest of the cocoa powder onto the cream and sugar mixture. Now mix the cocoa powder and the sugar cream mixture together and adjust the stiffness of the mixture with a tablespoon of milk if needed. Now pick 1 piping bag, open it and drop the piping cork into it. Then push it to the tip of the piping bag and cut the tip with the scissors. Add the piping tip to it and secure the tip to the cork with the coupler. Now fetch some of the frosting into the piping bag. Let's assemble the cake. Right after the cake is baked, flip it out of the baking tin and onto the cooling rack. Use either a serrated knife to divide the cake into equal halves for assembling or divide the cake into equal halves for assembling with the cake leveler. After securing the cake board to the turntable, pipe some circular lines onto the cake board and use the offset spatula to spread the frosting on the cake board. Put the first cake layer on the cake board and press it down gently to aid it stick to the frosting on the cake board. Then use the ice cream scooper to scoop some of the frosting onto the cake. Use the offset spatula to spread the frosting on the cake's surface and gently add the second layer onto the first one. Then press it down nicely so that it can attach to the frosting beneath it. Use the piping bag to fill in the gaps between the cakes with the frosting. Scoop another dollop of frosting onto the cake and use the offset spatula to spread it. Place the third layer of the cake onto the others. Scoop a dollop of frosting onto the cake layer and spread the frosting evenly on the surface. Then add the last cake layer. Use a serrated knife to shape and trim the flour-covered edges off for a smooth frosting process. Then scoop 1 more dollop of frosting onto the cake. Scoop a thin layer of frosting onto the cake and use the offset spatula to crumb coat the cake. This is the first covering of the cake to ensure that it traps any crumbs that may come off as the cake is being frosted. Chill the cake in the freezer for about 30 minutes, and I picked up the chocolate twists and gold dust I'll be using for the cake decoration. Dip the painting brush into the gold dust and paint the chocolate with the gold dust beautifully. Take the cake out of the freezer and continue covering it with the frosting. Scoop the last frosting onto the cake. Spread it on the top and sides of the cake with the offset spatula to cover the cake evenly. After the cake is well covered, pipe your preferred design onto it. And also to the bottom of the cake. Use the offset spatula to lift the painted chocolate and place it gently on the cake. Then use the painting brush to sprinkle some of the gold dust onto the cake. Use a cake server to slice some of the cake and lift it onto a plate. That's your girl enjoying her cake. If you have enjoyed me until now, I want to say thank you so much. To my subscribers, I say thank you. To my new viewers, I say you are welcome to the channel. And kindly make it a point to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this every Thursday and Sunday. And guys, turn on your post and notification icon so that I get notified anytime I post a new video. Until we meet again, bye bye.